Welcome, everybody. My name is Susan Bontly, and I am a instructional librarian here at Diana Community College. Today's presentation will be on personal finance resources. I would like to welcome a few of my colleagues, Jose Aranda, who will be the technical person, as well as our library director, Therese DeSimio. We also have two guests that will be given a moment to talk about their program from DACC, Roseanne Binsley and Brad Mazdra, who are working on the DACC Student Financial Planning Academy. And at the end of, towards the end of the presentation, they will have an opportunity to give you a little bit more information about that. But today we're going to have a short presentation on personal finance resources. I do want to start off though with a little bit of housekeeping. If you're having any troubles, please put any problems in the chat. Jose will be able to hopefully help you if you're having any trouble seeing things or hearing things. Yes, our presentation is being recorded, and a transcript plus the handouts, including a list of resources, and the presentation slides will be made available on the library's presentation website. Please keep your microphone muted so that we don't disturb the others listening to the presentation. There'll be an opportunity to ask questions verbally if you would like throughout the presentation, or you can type them in the chat if you feel more comfortable doing that. So first thing off is a big disclaimer. I am a librarian. I am not a financial expert. This presentation is not intended to give any type of financial advice. I have no qualifications. But as a librarian, part of my job is to curate or select highly qualified, highly relevant, highly useful resources that have a good reputation that you can use to learn more about financial situations that relate to you specifically, because finances, personal finances are very unique to each individual, each family. The resources I will be showing you and showcasing are intended to help you learn more about your situation, so that if you do seek out some advice from a banker, a financial planner, or an accountant, you can have some information at your disposal to ask questions that will help you make decisions. Today, we are going to cover 4 categories. Personal finances covers a wide range of topics. And since this is supposed to be a short presentation, I am going to only cover some very basics. We're going to talk a little bit about budgeting, a little bit about planning, a little bit about saving, and a little bit about spending. There's a lot more information out there, and I will be giving you a list of resources that you can go and you can dig a lot deeper. So keep in mind, this is just an overview. In each category, I'm going to try and provide a definition, then maybe an example or something related to the topic, and then some resources that have sort of bubbled up to the top, and specifically highlighting things that are available through Diana Community College or locally in the area. First of all, what is financial literacy, financial education, and financial well-being? All 3 of these are very much intertwined. Literacy is considered to be skills and knowledge and tools. And each person needs a set of this, the skills, knowledge, and tools that relate to their own personal financial decisions and their goals. Education, which is what we are doing right now, is how people can gain this information, how they can develop the skills and the confidence, plus the motivation to take charge of their own financial life. Well-being is what we are, the goal of literacy and education. It's first of all to meet your financial obligations, and then for you to feel secure in your future financially, and that you make choices that include your ability to enjoy your life after you feel secure. So the idea is that you are learning about the world of finance related to your personal situation so that you can make some good choices, you meet your financial obligations, you feel secure, and therefore you can go on to live a very full life, not worried about how to pay the next bill, or do you have retirement resources set aside, or are you going to have to worry, maybe you want to send your children or your grandchildren to school and things like that. It all depends on what enjoyment is in life for each individual. That is why it's called personal financial resources, as opposed to, let's say, small business or big business financial resources. These are all specifically targeted towards each individual and what they consider to be important in their lives financially. So our first topic is budgeting. Budget is a plan. It has to do with how you will spend money that comes in each month. It helps to make sure that you have enough money at the end during the month to meet your obligations and possibly to plan for the future and have some enjoyment in life. A budget just basically shows you how much you make and how much you're spending. A lot of people don't have budgets, and then at the end of the month, it's like, where'd the money go? But we'll talk a little bit about that. Here's an example of a budget. I'm not saying it's the best or the worst. It's just a simple one that's out there. And it usually covers your basic living expenses, what debts you might have if you're paying on a car or a student loan, or any past due bills, things like that. And you've got your expenses plus your what you owe in debt, and that's what you have to your obligations to meet. And then you have your income, which could be from a variety of sources, and together they make up the cash flow that each person or each family has to deal with each month. Now, here are some commonly used spending categories. Some of these are basic necessities, and some are what we would consider more wants than needs. But this is just a general idea of what some of the things that you might have to understand and look at and estimate, or even if you've got fixed cost, you can go ahead and you can know if your mortgage or rent, that's a fixed cost. Hopefully, it only goes up maybe once, if it's rent, maybe once a year. Your mortgage payment, it hopefully is a fixed cost. But these are all things that you should be thinking about when you're creating a budget. Next question, though, is, well, how do you create a budget? Well, we have some resources locally. On our campus, or on NMSU campus, is the Cooperative Extension Service, and they have had a historical role in providing information to families about a large range of topics, including personal finance. So they have something called Managing Your Money series. It is available online to anybody, and at the end of the presentation, there's a list, plus what will be up on the library presentation site is a PDF with all the links that I will be covering in this presentation. But they have something about where do you start, how to identify where all the money goes, and how to stop any spending links. Maybe you didn't realize you have a subscription to a specific service that you stopped using let's say 6 months ago, but you're still paying on it, things like that. So these are all good resources to possibly use. NMSU and Thomas Brannigan Public Library also have print and ebooks that are available. Since I'm focusing on DACC resources, I did not go and grab the titles of the books, but I did look at them, and there are a lot out there. If you have a public library card, then you can get a lot of their books online. They have several of them. NMSU, you would have to, if you're a community member, you would have to go in and access their online resources while in the NMSU library, but you can check books out of there as a community member. They have that category. And if you want to come to DACC, you can check out books here as a community member. There are a couple of websites. The Federal Student Aid website has a page that talks about living on a budget, and it's geared towards students, but it could be useful for someone who's never done a budget before. And then the National Foundation for Credit Counseling has a template that's just a very basic template that you could start with. And in the list of resources, there are several other templates that would give you some choices. You can do it on paper or you can do it electronically. There's even apps out there and software out there. I use just a regular Excel spreadsheet. And one of the things that has come up, and I'm going to talk from personal experience, not from giving advice, but I look at my budget every quarter unless something changes. Like, for example, if something that I spend regularly changes in price. When we started, our gas started to go up. I had to go back and look at my budget and make sure I had enough cushion in there to absorb the $5 a gallon. Thank goodness it's come down a little bit. But, you know, and if I was planning a long trip, I had to think, okay, well, how much gas mileage do I have? And that becomes a different type of expense, which trips, vacations, Christmas, things like that. Those are come in the next section we're going to talk about, which is planning. So when you look at your budget is your day-to-day expenses and things like that. Your planning is for a little bit further on. It's a guide, and you usually have goals attached to it. So if you want to save X number of dollars for retirement, that's probably a long-term goal. And we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between short-term and long-term. If you know you have a big bill that comes due, maybe your tax bill, if your property tax bill that comes twice a year, and you pay it yourself, or maybe it's paid as part of your mortgage. In my case, when I owned a house, I was able to pay that myself, so I had to plan, and that was a short-term goal that I had, is that I had to have enough money every 6 months to pay my property tax bill. But you identify what is important in your life. Again, this is all very personal. And then you identify those goals that, you know, monetary wise, that would help you reach the things that you want. And this again has to do with your enjoyment of life. Maybe you're saving for your children's college fund. Maybe you're saving for a trip to Europe to celebrate a specific anniversary. You know, the goals are all different for individuals, but by planning them, then you know that you can afford to take them and not really put a big dent into your other goals for later on. And towards the end of this presentation, we'll talk a little bit about spending, which includes credit, and that fits into your planning process as well. But the benefits of this are that life savings, especially if you're planning for retirement anytime soon. And we all probably do at one point in our lives start thinking about it a little bit more seriously than, when we're in our teens or 20s, and even in our 30s sometimes. If you're older than that, you start thinking, okay, retirement, what's going to be available to me? What's the standard of living I want, and things like that. Also, financial planning does increase your standard of living. If you knew you're going to get a pay raise, which we just got for those of us at DACC and NMSU starting this month, we have to decide, we have to plan, what are we going to do with that additional money? Is it going to go to a specific goal? Is it going to cope with the increased cost of living that we're having to deal with right now? But the planning part lets you answer some of these questions. Financial planning also helps you be prepared in case there is a crisis in your family. It could be a medical emergency, it could be a vehicle emergency, it could be a household emergency, any one of those. Your refrigerator stops working, your air conditioner stops working. These are things that, having a financial plan helps you deal with these without causing a lot of undue stress in your financial life. And because of that, you enjoy a better peace of mind. So these are some of the things that we were talking about just a few minutes ago: buying a car, having a child or adopting a child, getting married, and possibly getting a divorce might be on there as well. If you need to purchase things, tools for work, if you're self-employed, maybe a birthday or rite of passage. There are certain, milestones that families like to celebrate in a big way. Maybe it's a graduation. Maybe it's someone's special birthday or something. You might be saving up for buying a house. You might want to go to college, or a family member wants to go to college and you want to contribute. So all of these need to be planned for so that you can have the money available when it happens, as opposed to being caught off guard and then having to figure out, well, where am I going to get that money? And when you're planning, you're also taking in all the different types of sources you might get. So like if you're going to college, you might be thinking about financial aid. If you are doing, let's say, a graduation, that may be something, a graduation party, other members might chip in and things like that. So the planning process, you think about what types of things that might be coming up in the future. You estimate the costs, so sometimes you may know if it's a short-term type thing. And then you think about the ways that you could gather the money together over a period of time so that the impact of the cost of that particular expense doesn't wipe out your budget completely for the next 6 months or something like that. Again, we have a few. We have a life skills handbook and workbook that is both, the handbook is both in print and online, and the workbook happens to we have a copy of it at Espina Library. We also have a book on financial planning, and it's available online. There is a managing your money guide. It's a pamphlet, more or less, developing a spending plan. So those are all things that are available locally here at DACC or through the website. And then Thomas Brannigan, like I said, has a bunch of others specifically for planning. And the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has this worksheet that talks about money goals. It steps you through the goal setting process related to money. And so it's an online worksheet that you can download onto your computer if you have access to a computer, and you can use one for each money goal. So if you're saving for retirement, or you're saving for, let's say, an anniversary cruise or something like that, you could use the worksheet and just fill it in, and it will help you plan to put away money or get financing or however you're going to do it for that particular money goal. Okay, I've covered two things. Are there any questions yet? You can raise your hand or you can just speak up, unmute yourself. If not, I'm going to continue on. Our next section has to do with saving. This should become a regular habit, even if it's just a little bit of money each month. Bank accounts, credit union accounts are good ways to put money aside, and they're pretty simple and easy. You can start if you have children, you can start when they're young and have a savings account. As children grow up and become teenagers and possibly work, they might want to also having a checking account that allows them access to the money that they are earning. These are just a savings can be in many different ways. Banking, it could be investments if you're thinking really long term in the sense of retirement. But the savings is used for both your events, like we talked about in the planning just a few minutes ago, both planned and unplanned, plus for your long-term financial goals. This is just one of the ways that you can set money aside to meet those obligations. Now, goals can be short-term or long-term, like I mentioned earlier. And the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau put together this is for financial literacy for middle schoolers, but I really thought it was an interesting way to look at that. So if you're building an emergency fund before the beginning of the year, let's say it's in the first quarter, it could be a short-term goal, and you probably would use savings as opposed to an investment, because emergency fund, the purpose of that is if something unexpected comes up, maybe someone loses a job, maybe you have a very large expense that you weren't planning on, like you were in a car accident, heaven forbid, but you decide that you need to replace the car, or it has to be replaced, and the insurance may or may not cover it if you've got the proper insurance and things. But anyway, the emergency fund, that is more of a savings. But if you want a down payment on a house that's 10 years out before you buy it, an investment might be better because you might get a better rate of return. If you want to buy a video game system in 6 months, that's a short term. You save it, you put it in a savings account, or you somehow designate however your finances are. And that would be something that maybe you contribute every month. Let's say you decide you're not going to go to Starbucks 3 times a week, you only go once a week. Well, that remaining money can go into some sort of savings entity so that you could get it at the end, and you can, all your lattes now have paid for a video game or system. Retirement account, investments, down payment for a car. Since that's more short term, they recommend that maybe that this is a savings thing, not an investment thing. But building your wealth over your lifetime, that's investment. And these, we have certified people all over that that's their job. They can be investment consultants, they can be financial planning, certified financial planners, things like that. They will help you make decisions on which is best to put your money in once you've decided, are you going to save it or you're going to invest it. Bankers will help you with the savings, and everyone else can help you with the investments. We have a couple of books here online, as well as available in print. Right now, the one that I recommend is Beyond Our Means. It's a little bit old, but it looks at more of the psychological aspects of financial planning and saving and things like that. The Department of Labor has this really good book that is called Savings Fitness, and it talks about saving in relation to the future and things like that. Again, there were a lot of books on this topic that you could find at Thomas Brannigan or at NMSU. And a lot of the general financial planning books have a chapter or a section that talks about saving and the different vehicles for saving and things like that. It will give you more information, like the difference between a CD, a savings account with interest and without interest. Well, actually, it's usually a checking account with or without interest. And then you can talk to your banker about the differences, because some have minimum amount of money that has to stay in there at all times in order to qualify for additional interest and things like that. And then the FDIC has a publication called Consumer News, and they have a specific article called Save, Organize, and Streamline Your Finances, which talks about saving and the different types of saving that's out there and how you can organize it and make it more useful to you as an individual. And then every February, we have something called America Saves Week. And during that week, there is a lot of activities going on, a lot of challenges, a lot of information gets put out to the public on ways to save, things to do regarding saving. And this particular website tells you all about it. There's nothing up yet about 2023. It usually comes out at the end of the last quarter, like in November or December of the year for the following year. But it's got a lot of resources from last year that you might find useful, even though 2022 is halfway done now. Last category is spending. Just some facts here. Almost half of the US families have revolving credit card debt, $111 billion in fees and interest. That's because they don't pay off their credit cards every month, which is a really good goal to aim for. But sometimes it's not reachable for some people. A large group within that, almost half of US families, they carry their debt not just for 1 month or 2 months, but for extended, like years extended. And by carrying that extended debt, it impacts their ability to save, because they're always worried about the credit card debt, and they have to put their spare money towards that. And then any credit line that they might have or need in another emergency, especially a big emergency, like maybe medical bills or replacement of a car or anything like that, they don't have a credit line that they can call on to cover it until they figure out other financial. Usually the credit lines are used for unexpected big things that happen in people's lives, and they need it with the because they just don't have the financial reserves. If the credit card debt leads to delinquency, which is not paying it on time, or default, which means not paying it at all, then there are a lot of other avenues, other ways you could get credit. They're pulled off the table. They're no longer accessible because they have a bad credit score, or they have declared bankruptcy or something like that. And credit repair is a big industry, but there are some things you can do as an individual that will help you be able to do that. Now, this was from that same article that I got those other facts, but if you'll notice, this is the income percentile. This is, people that make 20% of the median income, and this is the amounts of money that are carrying, the percentage of that category that are carrying unpaid balances. So as you can see, the 20 to the 80% is carrying over half almost of them are carrying unpaid balances. And here's the amount of money that they usually owe on an average. And all of this information is available at this resource right here. They got it off of a survey that's done by one of our government financial arms, and they pulled together a survey, and that information is available within the article where to go to get the actual raw data for that. But I was very surprised to see that people in the top 80 to 90%, 45, almost 46% of them carry almost $10,000 worth of credit card debt a month. You know, that's a lot of credit card debt. So here's some ones. Again, we have a print book at East Mesa called the Credit Cleanup Book. We just got a online version of Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover, which is a classic. A lot of people swear by the plan that he puts together. One-page financial plan, again, that relates to planning, but I put it in spending because a lot of times that's where the cleanup has to start, that's where you have to start looking first, is what are you spending on besides your basic necessities? And again, NMSU and Brannigan have a lot of other additional resources. The Federal Trade Commission has a website on credit, loans, and debt, and some worksheets and some other things to help you, some calculators and things like that, that will help you get a handle on it. And then finally, your credit report, which is all part of your spending habits and things like that. A lot of people don't understand, well, what does it mean? What should I be looking for? What is a bad, mark versus a good mark? What is important within it? The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has a online pamphlet that you can download that tells you a lot of information. Plus, we've got a lot of other things out there, and they'll be on the resource list. Is there any questions? All right, let's go to the very last, which is questions. Okay. Roseanne Bensley and Brad, if you would, either one of you, talk a little bit about the student. Now, this is for students, but I know you have some future plans too, but can you tell us a little bit more about what's going on?
Sure, Susan. Thank you so much for the introduction. So the DACC Student Financial Plan is a program that we launched this summer with the incoming freshmen, and each of the incoming class were given an invitation to the Canvas course, in which we provide them with various modules to help them begin the financial planning process. So we teach them about college financing, student budget, alternative funding sources. We focus on the fact that a college education truly can be paid without loans. And we try to advocate that there are many scholarships and grant programs and employment that a student can participate in to earn those funds that are necessary to pay for school. We also discuss, as you have in your presentation today, budgeting, saving, investing, and various resources that students can take advantage of to reduce the cost of their day-to-day expenses. For example, there's the Aggie Cupboard, which provides food. So while food is a major part of your budget, there's nothing wrong with taking advantage of programs and services that can supplement the budget and provide alternate funding for you. And in addition to that, there are many, many national programs that provide substantial student discounts on products and services, but one just has to do a little bit of research to locate those discounts. And we do provide a starting point in some of our modules to help a student locate those those benefits that are only afforded to you while you're a student in school. Any other questions, Susan, that I may help you with in regard to the program? I would say at the present time, it is exclusive to DACC students. And if they are interested in being enrolled in the program, I would just have them reach out to their academic advisor. I believe you have a flyer that you possibly could share in your materials that have the link. We also encourage students to contact their DACC student success coach or advocate. They too can assist you with being invited into the course. And those appointments for students can be organized through your Navigate app that's on your student account.
Thank you, Roseanne. That's a really good explanation of what's going on. And I know there is discussion at this point in time of expanding it. Whether or not that happens, we're hoping that it does. But I went into the class and I looked at it a little bit and really liked the topics, the way your topics were. So I changed my presentation to sort of line up with that, because in reality, that's, you cover really good with your research and everything already. So I thought it would be good to mirror what you've got. If you know of any students, if you are a student yourself, please contact either Brad, who is on here, or any of the student success advisor, any of your advisors. Everyone on DACC is hopefully going to be made aware of this resource available to students, and we'd like to promote it as much as we can, because a lot of our students are just, this is the first time they've been out on their own, and they really do need some help beefing up their financial literacy. There's a lot of things that they are faced all at once, and the more that we can help them and the more resources we can give them to make life a little bit easier is important. And this is one really, really good resource, I think, that would be very useful. All right. List of references on here, what I used in my slides, as well as a list of books. And all of this will be on a separate handout that will be available to you with active links. Plus this slide presentation will be made available, and the links should be active in there as well. So there's a lot of information, other resources. I did want to point out that under the other resources, I identified some local New Mexico resources, as well as a couple of things that are at NMSU that may be available to students through the DACC students, as well as NMSU students, obviously. Then the last thing is a little summary. We talked a little bit about budgeting, which is really a personal balance sheet, and how important it is to get a handle on your income and your what goes out. Talked a little bit about planning, both short-term and long-term, and how it's essential for long-term financial well-being. Talked a little bit about savings, that you have short-term and long-term savings, and that includes banking and investment products. And then spending, which is essentially credit management. If you don't have a handle on your credit cards or your use of them, even your debit card, then you probably need to dive into that little area a little bit more. And I provided some resources and tools that might help you. Our next library presentation is in 2 weeks. It's going to be by Jose, and he's going to talk about the Internet Movie Database, the IMDb, which we probably at one time or another, all of us have checked out, either to find out a little bit about who starred in what TV show in 1979, or what the latest releases are going to be. I know I use it a lot for a lot of different ways, and he's going to talk about a little bit more about it, sort of dive a little deeper into it. If you would like to attend that one, you can email us, call us, or you can register at that particular link. I think the last thing that we have here is a survey we would like to ask to have you fill out about this presentation. The link is actually in the chat. If you can just click on it and it'll take you immediately there. I think it's like 3 or 4 questions. It's not very long. And if you have any recommendations of topics you would like us to cover, our last one prior to this one was on the geography and background, historical background of the war that's going on in the Ukraine with Russia. Prior to that, we did information for middle school and elementary school students. Are there any questions before we wrap it up? Well, then, thank you very much. I hope to see you at the next presentation. Thank you very much and have a wonderful Wednesday.